Hey, what's up, everybody? Do you struggle to find enough time to study for your Civil FE or PE exam, given everything that you've got going on in your busy life? You got your job as a civil engineer, got your family responsibilities and other commitments that you're dealing with. Talk about your social life as well, issues that you need to take care of, and all of that jazz. There's just a ton going on for everybody. Chances are you do, like every other civil engineer out there, balancing your life with work and exam prep. It's a tough balance to do. But here's the deal, and here's something that you didn't know, at least until now. You do not need as much time to study per day as you think you do. That may be a shock for you, but we're going to talk about it today. There's one study method that lets you spend less time studying each day while learning more of what you study throughout your exam prep period. And it's no silver bullet at all, actually. It's proven scientific evidence of how your brain works when you are trying to retain information in the long term, which is exactly what you need for your exam. So if you're already preparing for your exam or you're just getting geared up for it, you're going to want to watch this till the very end to know what the study method is, why it works so well when it comes to learning your exam prep material, and how it's going to help you on your journey to crush your own Civil FE or PE exam. Hey, I'm Isaac Okasen here with Civil Engineering Academy. Stick with me because it's going to be a fun ride, and it's going to be coming up right after this. All right, so here's a little background information for you if you got skeptical about this whole thing, but there's a group of educational psychologists that put to test this very learning method that I'm going to be talking about and various learning strategies commonly used by students that are taking exams. And they found that this study method we've been talking about to be one of the most effective strategies that really boosts students' performance across all kinds of different exam types. So they did this on a variety of exams. And actually, its effectiveness has been proven for over a century by more than 200 research papers in various fields for different kinds of tests and different outcomes. In fact, learning and concept application in classroom settings to language learning, to children understanding of science concepts, and a lot more different kinds of exam types. So a variety of exams. Now, the first technique that they found is something we've already covered here before, and it's something called practice testing, and it's all about testing yourself with practice problems and practice exams. You can check out our video about that very thing by clicking in the links that we've got listed below the description as well, and you can go check that out. So now the question is, what is this other technique that they found that allows you to study for only the limited time that you have in a day and still be ready to crush your exam? Well, this study method is called distributed practice, also known as spaced learning, or it's also called spaced repetition. It's about distributing your exam prep over multiple short study sessions over a long period of time, or enough of a time period that you can retain that, with a break between each session. Breaking it down into two parts, you have the first part, which is distributed, which means basically spread out, and then you have practice, which basically means to do something repeatedly and to become good at it. You know what that means. Now, this is a well-known concept used in various fields, and you can use it to receive the same results for your exam prep as well to help you pass your Civil FE or PE exam. So this technique works like this. The first thing is that you have initial exposure. What that means is that you're going to read or watch the material the first time you go through it. You're going to take notes the first time you go through it. You're going to achieve basically a baseline understanding of the topic that you are researching. The second thing you're going to deal with is called spacing. And this is a considerable amount of time that goes by after the material is first learned. The third thing that you're going to deal with is called review and retrieval. So in your next study sessions, you review what you read or watched about the topic, and you retrieve the information about it directly from your memory, whether that's by problem solving, going through quizzes, or whatever else you got. The fourth thing is repetition. You repeat the process of reviewing the material over and over again, which reinforces it in your memory for the long term. Okay, now you know what distributed practice is and how it works. Here is why it works. So in the 1880s, German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus became the pioneer in memory research. He spent years memorizing lists of made-up syllables and meticulously recording his results. Things he recorded including how many times he studied each list, how much time he spent studying them, and the time intervals between his study sessions, and how much he remembered the made-up syllables. By doing this, what he came up with was a graph called the forgetting graph. The forgetting curve shows the rate at which the information you've previously studied starts fading away over time. In his own words, left to itself, every mental content gradually loses its capacity for being revived, or at least suffers loss in this regard under the influence of time. So if you forgot a huge chunk of what you're studying right after you study it, how can you possibly remember all of the Civil FE or PE exam prep material on exam day? Well, Ebbinghaus found two things that can help you. First one's really the mechanism behind the distributed practice method. It's a memory phenomenon known as the spacing effect. It says that multiple short study sessions over time result in more long-term information retention than in a single study session of equivalent or a longer duration. Point of that is that you learn more in 2 3-hour study sessions over 2 days, one on each day, than in a single 6-hour study session that you would try to bust out in one afternoon. So Ebbinghaus himself found that he could recite a list of 12 made-up syllables by doing 68 repetitions one day and then 7 the next day. But with only 38 repetitions distributed over 3 days, he could do just as well. That is a 44% drop in study time, but the exact same amount of learning. So how is this whole thing possible? And that's because frequent spread out study sessions essentially halt the forgetting curve by making the information you've studied before top of mind again and again. So you just keep doing that. And although the forgetting process starts again after every study session, it's a lot slower. And each new forgetting curve is shallower. So in other words, you slow down the process of forgetting what you study and keep more of it for the long term when you frequently revisit it multiple times after coming across it for the first time. The second thing that Ebbinghaus found has to do with a counterintuitive fact. For you to learn anything, you first need to forget it. Think about that. The forgetting curve shows you forgot a huge chunk of what you studied right after studying it, right? But the thing is, you haven't completely forgotten what you have studied. According to Ebbinghaus, a certain amount of what you studied cannot consciously remember what you stopped thinking about, but it's actually stored somewhere in your brain, and he called these memories savings. This piece of information about a topic that you seem to have forgotten actually speeds up the process of internalizing the topic when you go to revisit it again. In fact, there's a modern learning theory called the forget to learn theory that says that the less you can consciously remember something you've previously studied, the more you learned it when you get to it again in future study sessions. For example, if you study some water resources topic today, you won't remember a good chunk of it tomorrow. Then, when you get to solve some problems on the same topic in the future, and it may be a future study session, you'll have to review it and force yourself to remember what you studied all about. The result, you'll be able to remember more of it after that study session, that second study session, much more than you could after only the first study session. Hopefully that makes sense. This is what makes the distributed practice method so effective in your exam preparation. You leverage the spacing effect with short but frequent sessions that halt the forgetting curve and are more realistic given your busy life. We all got busy lives. Also, you build upon that, what you have previously studied in previous study sessions, and you make a greater percentage, you retain a greater percentage of it that will last longer with each subsequent study session. Okay, so now you know what distributed practice, how that works. Here's how to apply it to your very own studies that you're going to use with the limited time that you have in a day. First thing that you need to do is plan a spaced study schedule ahead of time. Using your exam date that you've booked as your deadline and the specs for your exam as a checklist for everything you need to cover beforehand, you can create a schedule now, and you can start studying months before that deadline, which you definitely should do, and continue to do it on a regular basis until the big day. So breaking down the specifications into its major topics and focusing on knocking out one per week. For example, what you're going to do is 1 week you're going to cover geometrics, the next week you could focus on soil mechanics, and so on. So go through that specification, break it all down, and create a schedule off of it. Some topics may take you more than 1 week, and that's okay. That can be simply because they have more subtopics to them, because they may be more challenging to you. So just keep that in mind as you're reviewing all of that, and give yourself enough time to study those topics. Now, how many months in advance should you start preparing for your exam? Well, a great rule of thumb is to spend at least 3 to 4 months preparing for this thing. That is definitely a 3-month minimum. And like I mentioned, if you have more time, then give yourself more time. So that 3 to 4 months is definitely the minimum amount of time that you can realistically go through everything that's on the spec with the limited time that you have in your day. So your runway needs to be long enough to help you prepare that. If you've been in school for a while or things are still fresh, maybe you need less. If you've been out for a long time, maybe you need more. So if you need help building that schedule, though, we've done the heavy lifting for you and put together a really nice study plan that you can use right away. And that is the use of what we call the Ultimate Homework Planner, which is organized to schedule. Basically, we've done all that work. We've taken all the scheduled topics from the specification and let you know which weeks that you should tackle them and when. It's really handy. So if you're interested in checking that out, check out the description below and we will have a link to that for sure. And the second thing that you need to do is to include some checkpoints along the way in your study schedule. And what are these checkpoints? They are specific moments in your exam prep in which you're going to sit down and take a practice exam simulating the real deal. Very important. These help you get used to the exam experience and the pressure that comes with it, while also letting you know of any knowledge gaps that you may have, so you can zoom on those issues, those gaps, before your official exam. We always suggest taking at least 3 practice exams during your exam prep period. Usually I like recommending taking one near the beginning of your prep, maybe that first couple of weeks, the other were somewhere in the middle, and the last one pretty close to your exam date. Okay, the third thing you need to apply to the distributed practice technique is to block off regular study sessions. Open a blank week calendar, so you've got a week that is completely blank, and include everything you already have going on in your life. All the work hours, the family responsibilities, your in-laws' family party, whatever it is. Put that all in there. Once you have all of that listed in there, you have some non-negotiables listed in your schedule. You filled in the remaining chunks of time you have available with your study time and when it's more appropriate to you personally. So fill out that schedule with all of those empty spots with where you can study. Well, you know, as well as I do, when you're going through your calendar, you're going to have to make a few necessary trade-offs. Things like replacing your Netflix binges and your new show that's coming out. And you're going to have to sacrifice some time to build out that schedule. Letting go of some of your fun activities on the weekends are things that you're going to have to do so you can stay home to study during Saturday and a little bit of Sunday if you're available. The next thing you need to do is break down the major topics on the specification into its subtopics. Now, we've already organized the major topics into weekly goals, right? You've been doing that. Now you need to break each major topic even further into subtopics. You've already organized the major topics, and now we just go through that schedule, make sure we're hitting the subtopics to make sure you're covering everything. And the question is why? Well, you cannot study and practice problems on every subtopic under the soil mechanics section, for example, in 1 2-hour study session. If you try, you're simply going to be wasting your time. You're not going to learn any of those, right? And so we got to stay focused. We got to focus on one subtopic at a time and then slowly build on them, and eventually you'll cover all of them. For example, soil mechanics has 6 subtopics. First, read, watch, take notes, and work out problems on one of those only. Then, once you understand it a little bit, move on to the next one, do the same thing with that subtopic. If you keep this pattern up over a week or so, you're going to cover all that you need to know about the soil mechanics portion of the exam. And after that, it's just a matter of only bringing this information to the mind repeatedly in your following weeks of your exam prep, which leads me to discuss the next guideline. Just as you allow time in your schedule for studying new topics, you need to set aside some time for reviewing old ones as well. You can't simply study one thing, solve it a few times, and call it done, and never go back to it again. That's not what I'm trying to share with you. So this goes totally against the idea of halting halting the forgetting curve with a repeated practice. Remember that? If you don't go back to it and bring the information to mind again and again, you will remember less and less of it as time goes by, and probably nothing on the exam day, so you don't want to do that. So how can you bring back to review old topics while still keeping up with your schedule by getting new ones? One technique that you can use is called delayed homework, and it's basically about solving problems on topics you've already learned but are not currently working on. For example, you study soil mechanic topics and then solve problems about them in your first week of your exam prep. Then you move on to studying geometrics, say in week 2, according to your own study schedule. Now, instead of simply putting soil mechanics aside for the rest of your exam prep, you schedule additional time to solve more problems about it during week 4 or 5 of your schedule to make sure you're bringing that topic back up. These regular reviews of old topics force you to remember or review what you've already studied, which reduces the forgetting process by keeping them fresh and in your mind. Okay, now one of the last 2 things you need to study is that we want to talk about is deep work mode. Another finding by Ebbinghaus is that the intensity of your focus while studying impacts how much information your brain stores about what you study. So when it's study time, you need to be completely focused on the task at hand. Whether that's watching a video lecture, reading a section of your reference manual, or solving sets of problems, you need to be in that deep work zone. Find a place where you can study without any interruptions, leaving your phone in another room so you don't have that distraction. Close your web browsers so you don't go down the rabbit hole of watching some funny cat videos or whatever is on YouTube that day. This is very important to passing your exams, that we even did an entire podcast episode dedicated to the topic of deep work and how you do that during your exam prep. Check out the description below for the link to that podcast episode, and seriously, you should give it a listen because it definitely matters to set up an environment and get into that deep work mode, especially today when we have so many distractions coming from everywhere. It's really hard to study. So you get the point. Finally, last thing though is that you need to follow through with your own study plan. This is perhaps the most difficult one in the steps we've listed so far. I know it's a challenge. The whole thing is a challenge, but you can do it. But planning things to do to achieve a goal you care about and are excited about is part of the journey, and it's part of all the fun. But actually doing what you planned is a whole nother story. For example, it's not easy to stay home during a complete 4-hour study session on a sunny Saturday afternoon while your friends are out there doing all kinds of stuff outside. That is not fun. But for your exam prep plan to work, you need to follow through with it. So you've got to do these things. There's going to be a sacrifice that's going to be made. So despite real emergencies in your life, you need to stick to the time you've blocked off to study every day and be committed to sitting down and completing them. This will demand difficult trade-offs, but it's all temporary. Keep that in mind. Put your head in the books consistently for the amount of prep time that you've given for yourself in these study blocks. You can be done with your exam fast and get back to your life. And the truth is, once you're done and you don't have to go back to it. All right, everybody, this is what we've got for you in this video. The distributed practice technique can really help you learn more of everything you study for your exam while only studying for a few hours in the available time that you have as a busy engineer with family and everything else you've got going in your life. So how is that? As you've seen, it's just a matter of how frequent that you study, not how long you do it in one sitting. Isn't that nice? That makes you learn all of your exam prep material and you don't have to crunch it all out in one sitting. The spacing effect also is important, and that shows that you can reduce how much time that you're forgetting about what you study if you revisit it multiple times in the future, while also building upon what you have learned in previous study sessions, understanding even more of the topics that you need to get covered. And doing that, you'll be able to get ready to crush your Civil FE or PE exam once and for all. And we here at Civil Engineering Academy are all about helping you do just that. If you're studying for the Civil FE exam, we've scoured the internet ourselves for the best FE resources that are out there for you, so you don't have to do it yourself. And we've put them all into a great resource that we call the 5 Best FE Resources Guide, which are the best resources that you can really find as you start this journey for your FE exam to help you with success. If you are in need of that, you'll want to check that out. So just head over to the description and link also below, and you'll find that in there. You'll find a link to the page where you can get the guide for free. So if you're planning on taking the Civil FE FE exam, definitely check that out. Now, if you're in the world of taking the civil PE exam, instead, we've created a sweet guide for you as well. It's called the Ultimate Civil PE Exam Startup Guide, and it comes with proven tips and resources to help you get started on the right foot when it comes to your own exam prep. Also, by going to civilengineeringacademy.com/PE guide, or you can check out again the link in the description. We're going to have a link for that too, so check that out as well. Well, that's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed this. If you like this video, don't forget to give us a subscribe and go to the channel and hit that notification bell for all things related to the FE and PE exam and really anything civil related, so you know about everything that we put out immediately. This includes more quick tip videos that we're going to be producing, like the one that you're checking out, with advanced tips to help you prepare for your own professional engineering exams. We also have free video practice problems every single week for you to check out, and as much as possible, as well as weekly interviews with successful engineers and previous test takers, so you can learn from both their successes and mistakes. It's all found here. So hit that subscribe button below if you haven't already, and tap the notifications bell. You'll be the first one to know when we release these things, so we can help you on your own journey to become a better engineer and a licensed professional engineer. If you need anything else or want to find out any other ways that we can help you on your journey, because we definitely can, just check out our main site at civilengineeringacademy.com. You'll find everything that you need there, and it'll be a good time for you. All right, that's it. See you next time. Hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you later.